Well, I see it. I see recording.
You see a recording?
Yeah, recording.
All right. There we go. All right, folks. Well, we're back for another BaseMap podcast, and I'm laughing because Steve and I just chatted for an hour, and I didn't record it. So here we go again.
Hey, back. Episode 2 of something
Episode 2 of talking everything about draws in the Western states. So, all right, Steve Cordell. For those who do not know, he's a good friend of mine. He founded TopRut, and if you're not familiar with TopRut or TopeRut, as the AI machines like to call it, it is was a Western draw odds site where you could go figure out all draw odds across Western states. Very similar to HuntScore, which I ran, and then was acquired by BaseMap and is now integrated into our Hunt Planner. So we're going to talk about draw odds and all of the things that people hopefully will learn or should know about Western draws and getting into them. But yeah, with that, Steve, tell us a little bit about yourself and how'd you get going on TopRut? How did you get into that business?
Well, originally, really, it was kind of a scratch your own itch project. So I believe I began a little bit of work on it in 2015. So at that time, there wasn't a whole lot of information available. There were some print magazines that had some information. I think Go Hunt was around. I don't think I was aware of them when I started kind of playing with this, but really that was the genesis of it. Like I was getting into Western hunting, interested in the draws. I'm a career software data person. I recognized pretty early that the data that states provide wasn't kind of the entire picture as far as probabilities, chances to draw, and the way that some of the draws work. It wasn't exactly straightforward to just kind of do spreadsheet math and calculate what your odds are. Now, in some states, it's pretty easy. In other states, it's nearly impossible. So that's really the genesis of TopRut. Is just I wanted something that the data, I knew all the aspects of the data. I know how the data was derived, and I just wanted kind of a quick reference as I was doing my own hunt research about, what are my actual, chances here. And then that turned into kind of a simple website, and didn't really quit until 2022, which in 2022 we sold it. It was a business partner and we sold it in 2022, and since then, I haven't done a ton of draw odds research or doing the math, but all it's still interesting to me, very much so.
Right on. So it was the genesis was really, you're just like, man, I want to know what my odds are as best I can. And what states did you start out with? Do you recall?
So started out with Colorado, Wyoming, and I believe Utah, and I think New Mexico was in there probably as one of the first. But I do know that Wyoming was, I think, the first state that we tackled. And on the non-resident side, of course, Wyoming's kind of complicated. Just they have two different, kind of a regular pool and a special pool, differentiated by price. They have special elk general permits that combine units, deer regions. So we picked like a hard one to start with, which was kind of good just to get an idea of kind of some of the nuances of some of these states. So but then Colorado was shortly after. I think we talked a little bit before. Colorado is when it comes to draws, Colorado is just a beast. When I was running the TopRut side, the traffic on Colorado specific research was like so much bigger than almost all the other states combined. It's just pretty ridiculous.
How much
so many Colorado states.
So many people on it, and and there's so many tags, right? Like there's a lot of opportunity there. So
for sure.
And I feel like the other thing is with Colorado being right in the center, it's like drive
Yeah,
time. If you're a non-resident, it's not so bad, from
yeah,
a lot of places. So,
absolutely.
um, the so like as you got into some of the state research, um, what, like how did that go? Did states were they like, oh yeah, no problem, whatever files you need to do this, or are they kind of standoffish, like, what are you doing?
Yeah, well, that really was especially in the early days, the biggest challenge of the whole thing was, getting additional state data from every state beyond what, they publicly release on the website. Sometimes
Hmm.
what they give you is mostly enough to kind of do what you need to do, but oftentimes it is not at all enough to kind of accurately paint the picture. So that was the early challenge, was making contacts at each one of those states, explaining to them what it is we were trying to do, explaining to them what it is that we needed, and then getting them to understand, and then number two, just cooperate.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
the variety across all the states, from being extremely helpful, wanting to do whatever they could, to not wanting to talk to you at all. You
yep,
got the whole gamut. So early on, I think we were one of the earlier ones to start asking those folks for that kind of data, the states, and it was challenging to say the least.
yeah, yeah. I always appreciated that you guys paved the way, because when I got into it and would start inquiring, it was like states, some states would be like, oh yeah, here's basically the top ret file, right?
Right.
uh, or, they were at least somewhat familiar. I will like persistence. Some states you got to be super persistent with, and like you're, saying, establishing the contact at a state is a big one. Just as you go forward and try to keep these things updated, because it can be a pain when somebody leaves.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. Every year was a new adventure, because you might have
Yeah,
new contacts, new policies internally at the state, or draw changes,
yeah,
things
draw
change.
chain,
You have to
exactly. Then the
ask for
file
different.
needs to change. Yep.
Yeah. So every year was just another adventure. It's trying to get kind of your source data collected. That was always the hardest, because that usually happened, all throughout the summer. And that
Yep.
was kind of the hardest period for me. It was just not fun, most of it. Once
Yep.
you had the data and then, like, doing all the processing, draw simulations, in the compilation, got to where we were pretty good at that, and that went pretty quickly. But yeah, just that data collection and then some post cleanup was really the kind of the hard part of the whole deal. So
Yeah. Yeah. And then obviously regulations, which are super clear and never change from year to year, right? That makes
right,
it
right.
that makes it a thing that is really fun to do.
Yeah, right. And the hard thing, like, trying to correlate year over year what hunts are
Yeah.
the same when hunt codes change, bag limits change, dates change. So
Hmm.
you want to show a user, like, over time, over many years, you know, what has this particular hunt done? Just trying
Exactly.
to answer the question, what like hunts are across year to year, sometimes is a huge, huge pain in the ass.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's, for Arizona, I still do it manually. I used to try to do it in a automated fashion. And then I think like 2 years ago, I'm like, okay, this gets worse every year, like fewer hunts match, and ones that do are maybe not really supposed to match. And I was just like, I'm gonna have to hand map these every single time a regulation booklet gets published. So
Arizona was one of the worst for sure. It's a
yeah,
game of
yeah,
whack-a-mole with their special management hunts and their
yeah.
dates flip-flopping, and the way that, yeah, it was tough. It was very tough.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. It is. It is. Data is also tough there. to get, well, because they won't give you any.
Right.
So that's they just won't.
No,
Um,
I've got probably some interesting stories about individual states and
yeah.
particular, occurrences of, what they would tell us and try to charge us, like try to charge us for this data, like in the 5-figure range, tens of thousands
Hmm.
of dollars to get some of this information. Like, wow, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Crazy. Um, okay, so that's like a little bit of background. How about like the different draw systems? Um, there's a lot of them out there. You know, I think that's one of the things that kind of confuses people when they get started. Um, so any thoughts that you have on, what are the things that people generally don't get or they get confused on when it comes to different Western state draws?
Well, there's quite a bit. I mean, honestly, if you're trying to keep up with, 6 to 10 Western states
Yeah.
method, the way they do the draw, the way their point system works. I mean, just the breadth of it is pretty intimidating for a newcomer, I think. It is. It's a lot to know.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of little details to figure out. So it takes some deliberate research to kind of wrap your head around it. I know there are a lot of services now that'll help you do so, and they're compiling, summaries of how things work. So
Yep.
definitely utilize those, if you have the means to. Um, so that's
Yeah.
that's one thing. Just the basics of, what the difference is between a preference point and a bonus point. Again, there's lots of resources out there now that you can go over, but those are the important kind of cornerstones to just understanding and coming up with kind of a good strategy that's right for you over the long haul. Because I think
Yeah.
that's probably the one biggest thing that people maybe don't think about as much is just having a 10, 15, maybe 20-year long view of what you're trying to do over that next 20 years or
Yeah.
however whatever your situation is, just have a plan and
Yep. Yep.
and
What
kind
like
of,
how do you approach it? That
well,
kind of longer term planning. Like are you going for trophy units or are you, you know?
yeah, everyone's a little different, I would say. So everyone's situation is different, and I guess I would preface all this to say that my perspective is coming at it as a non-resident. So
Oh,
um,
yep. Yep.
I'm a Midwest guy, so I'm not a resident in any Western state. So all these perspectives from my side are from a non-resident. I feel like that these states should treat residents and non-residents different. I mean, they obviously do in a lot of cases, but I even feel like different draw systems for residents versus non-residents is not a terrible idea.
Hmm.
You know, the discrepancy just between how many tags are available and
Yeah, it's already huge. So,
yeah. So having said that, like I was always more of an opportunity person. So my
hmm.
goal every year was to get one Western tag that I was pretty excited to go. Just something I could look forward to. If I got one
Yeah.
a year, mission accomplished. Um, so I'm typically have never been like trying to go for those very top units, like tier A, I would say,
Yeah.
just because
Yeah.
the odds are generally so terrible. So, um, but there are certain states where their draw system allows you to take a shot like that without really penalizing you. And,
Yeah.
states
Yeah.
like New Mexico, Nevada, where they give you multiple choices when they're evaluating your application. In those states, shoot for the moon with choice one and even choice two because it does you no harm to do
Yep.
that when you can maybe put a mid tier or lower tier from an opportunity perspective down as your last choice. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a
fundamentally,
good
I think,
insight.
yeah, fundamentally, I think that's a problem. Like on the non-resident side, odds have gotten terrible. Like if those states that allow you to do multiple choices like that would stop doing that and make you pick a choice, I think odds across the board would improve for
Yeah.
every individual user. So I'm a big advocate all the way around for making applicants pick.
Yeah, yeah. And when you say making applicants pick, you mean on like it just in the way that other states do it, like a Colorado, first choice gets evaluated, then second choice for everybody, or elaborate a little bit on that.
So in a state like, let's do New Mexico, for example, where they allow you three choices, and
Yep.
they will, when your application is evaluated, they'll look at your first choice and see if that's available. If it's not, they'll look at your second choice, see if that's available. If it's not, then they'll look at your third choice. The right way to play that from a math perspective is to put your hardest choice, the hardest one to draw probability wise, as first,
Yep.
second hardest as second, third hardest as third. So everyone kind of generally does the same thing, or they'll use choice 1 and 2 on these, what I would call tier A hunts,
Yeah.
one's trophy hunts. So you've got this huge pool of applicants on these hunts that everybody wants, and there's no penalty for choosing those in those systems. If you only had one choice instead of three, well, now you're going to have to pick. You're going to have to pick. Do I want to take a flyer on this
Yep.
trophy unit, or am I okay going on this mid-tier unit hunt just because I know the opportunities are better?
Yeah.
So, and Nevada's worse. They have 5 choices.
I know, it's crazy.
Just insane. And again, the right answer might be, well, make the non-residents make one choice.
Yeah.
Residents, do what you want.
Keep doing it. Yeah.
Anyway, but I'm coming at from the perspective of maximizing non-resident opportunity. So let's get some of the draw odds back that we've lost over the last 10 years, just with the increased demand. I think there are ways you could do it, and that's just an example of one way that would
Yeah.
Even things out a bit.
And then thinking about like applying it across all of these states, and you're focused on opportunity. So like how do you in a given year or over time, how do you kind of approach that?
I tend to, since I do apply in multiple states, I kind of like the fact that states are different. So different draw systems, although a pain in the butt to keep up with, kind of let you strategize a little bit, I guess. So some states I may, depending on how many points I've accumulated wherever for whatever species, I may designate that state as kind of a long shot and be like, well, I'm going to put in for some hunts that are a little harder to draw, just to see if I get lucky. Other states, I might kind of play the middle ground where it's like, well, that's kind of a mid-tier draw. And then some states I view as pure opportunity. Like there's a real chance that I could draw this. So I kind of spread them out into buckets like that, kind of evaluate all the applications I'm going to put in and get an idea of, okay, what are the odds that I'm going to get, the probability I'm going to draw one of these tags and meet my goal of, one decent hunt a year that I can travel out west for. So there's a lot of math there, but I mean, just kind of without doing the math, having a strategy like that, sticking to it over the long haul, I think will help you draw more tags, say in a 15 or a 20-year period. As opposed to if, you're inconsistent, you're always chasing, top tier hunts, you're doing bonus points only and are never applicable, you're not even eligible to draw, which is insane to me unless there's some extreme circumstance. States like Arizona or Nevada where there's a sufficient random portion component to the draw, like bonus
put in, man.
Only, put in for a hunt. Unless there's just no way you can make it work if you drew, but take a flyer on it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think a lot of people don't take the flyer, they just build the point. And like you're saying, if there's If there's just really no way that you could possibly hunt, okay, great, then don't apply. But if it's a bonus point system where you have a chance, um, you might as well apply to one of those really good hunts if that's what you're interested in doing ultimately, because
Yeah.
you could draw it early, Um, even in Wyoming, like I got lucky and drew a pronghorn hunt a number of years ago where it was my first year. I think we went up mule deer hunting. I was like, oh, this is cool, I like Wyoming, tons of pronghorn running around. And then the next year, um, instead of just building points, I, applied to one of these like 10 or 12 point pronghorn hunts for non-resident because there's a random portion. So I thought, oh, maybe I'll get lucky. And
Right.
I did, I drew it. Like it's a 2% odds and I drew it.
Yep.
Um, and it was the easiest hunt I've ever done in my life because you just it was like I drove out there, I woke up in the morning, pronghorn all around me, and I just sat and waited for the biggest buck I could find.
Yep.
um,
Yep.
so it was in some regards it was kind of not that fun of a hunt for me personally, because that's
Right.
not what I'm normally looking for. But I didn't know that at the time. It was kind of in retrospect. It's like, oh, okay. I don't
Right.
know that I'll do that again, but
Right.
but yeah, there's always a chance. So definitely apply. And then yeah, I like this idea of the if you're applying to multiple states, um, you can kind of up your odds in the sense that if you've got, each state is independent. The obviously the draw odds are, and so um, if you've got multiple states where you've got a 20-30% chance of drawing and you've got five of those you're applying to, like you're going to draw a tag somewhere, most likely.
Right.
Um, we would expect you to draw a tag. So,
Right.
yep. Um, cool. Well, how about like the individual draw systems? Are there ones that you like versus, ones that you don't like as much? Like you said, opportunity is kind of the thing that you're interested in. So, do you think
Yeah.
like
You know,
is Colorado's, preference point system one that you feel like maximizes opportunity or the opposite?
Colorado's an interesting one. It's very Colorado's obviously the current state of Colorado. They're getting ready to change it in
Yeah.
2028. But a pure preference point in Colorado, to me, that was always definitely the most predictable state that I
Yep.
had put in for. Because you kind of knew before, you know, you put your app in whether or not you had any kind of a reasonable shot at drawing the tag or not. Unless it's like one of those tags
Yeah.
that are 0 or 1 point. But um, I'm not a fan of pure preference point systems, though. I mean, I think it's time for them. Their time has passed. Like I know a lot
Yep.
of people are upset that Colorado's changing, so they're going from pure preference points for deer, elk, antelope to a hybrid system, which is
Hmm.
50% given to the most people, the most preference points, 50%. I think it's a bonus point, kind of more
So
randomized
yeah.
drawing. I think that overall is probably the fairest approach. Um, if you're trying to be fair about, you know, applicant opportunities, I
Yeah.
understand people that are, have got 20 preference points are obviously not happy with the change that's going on in Colorado, but I think overall, like a hybrid system is probably the the fairest way to do a draw. It's like split the pool into some tags go this side, some tags go this side.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
step further along in I said I think states should make you choose.
Yeah.
I could even see where I would like it if they took half the tags and allocated them to a pure preference system, took the other half and allocated them to a bonus point draw system that's more random, but with bonus points,
Okay.
but make the applicant choose. They can't participate in both. You got to do one or the other. And
Oh, this is
participate in preference points, you get preference points. You can't then use them in a bonus point side. So the points are
oh,
different and you accumulate on one side or the other.
this
I would
is
love
black.
to see that for non-residents do that and make you split them up. Let's split up the pool and then you can kind of take a look at the numbers and make a more kind of sane judgment about what it is you want to do.
This is blasphemy. I don't uh I feel like that would confuse a lot of people. But I can see I like under the preference point system, you would know with you like you're saying, it's very predictable, right?
Yeah,
Generally,
get in line. First in, first out.
yeah,
It's
first
real
in,
easy.
first out. You usually don't see a lot of change from year to year, other than those people who, unfortunately, every year put in for the wrong code, um, which happens in Colorado. You'll see some poor fella. Well, at least I always presume. I presume it's somebody who screwed up. They had 20 points. They put in for this unit that took 6 or 3 or whatever. Um, but maybe they didn't. Maybe they're just like, this is my last year I'm going hunting. I want to go with my grandson or my son or whatever. And they're like, I don't, I could care two shits about the points. It's about the experience. Um, but yeah, like you get the predictability if you're in the preference point line, you just know what's going to happen. And then if you're in the bonus point line, you're like, hey, I've always got that chance.
Yep.
It's not as good as, somebody with 10 points, but I've got a chance.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so you kind of make somebody pick, do they want the opportunity versus the certainty,
The
if you will.
predictability.
Yeah.
Which one I would choose probably? I would be a bonus point person. Like I would roll the dice and be like, I want my chance every year and bonus points increase chances over time, although not a huge amount, but they do, you know.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I probably would end up on the bonus point side. Um, but it's just an interesting thought experiment. It'll never happen, but
I, I don't know. There could be, somebody's going to listen to this 5 years down the road. Some guy inside of, CPW, and he's going to be like, that Steve had a great idea.
well, thinking about that though, if you like in 2028 when they're changing their system, if they said, okay, you can take your points, but now you got to choose which side you
Where
want
do
to
you
go
want
on,
them?
where you want
Yeah.
them. Continue to stay in line, or do you want to go over here on the bonus side where you might get lucky? But on the bonus side, I'm thinking of those mid-tier units. Like if
Yeah.
you split it up that way, what do the odds look like for those mid-tier units, on the side where it's kind of randomized? Given
Hmm.
that everyone has had to kind of spread out and figure out what it is they want to do. I just think it gives you more granularity to what it is you want and you can apply to accomplish that goal.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. It's interesting. Now this is the second time we've talked about this. I kind of am liking this idea a little bit more. Uh,
Well, it'll never happen, but
yeah. Well, I mean, states are, I feel like nobody's ever content with the system. So I could see this. I could see something like this happening. I mean, it's not that far cry from what already happens in a lot of states, right? Where Arizona, Utah, you got a bonus point system that's split up into a max bonus point draw and you know, a
right.
bonus point side. And so it's kind of there. It's just the tag pool is for everybody as opposed to um, you know, split. Or you could see, Wyoming could say we're going to take our random pool and turn it into a bonus point pool.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
of course, you'd have to force people down one of those paths, but yeah, yeah, that's it's interesting. It's interesting. I mean, I kind of like the I like random draws.
Yeah.
Um, just for simplicity and the fact that everybody has a shot, uh, which I think is pretty cool. But a lot of people, you know, they really get irked when like the person it's their first time hunting and they go out and just get to smoke this big bull elk in an area that should be like, you
Yeah.
know, super hard to draw or take a long time through a point system.
Yeah. No, I think though, but if you think about it, if every state for the non-resident side would go to a completely random draw, they limit every applicant to choose one species,
Yeah,
choice, completely
yeah,
random.
which is a big one. A lot of people apply multiple.
Yeah.
So
You start spreading people out like that on the non-resident side, and I think odds just kind of globally for individual choices will go up.
yeah,
If you
yeah,
start limiting them, make people pick exactly what it is they're after, and then even I'm okay with a waiting period. You know, if you get lucky and you draw in Utah, you're going to sit the bench for 5 years. You're out for that
yep,
state. You got to, the people that got lucky, kind of got to step aside for a while. So
yeah, yeah. No,
again,
that's
I'm an
a
opportunity person. I want odds to be better, based on what it is I want to do. So that's kind of drives my thinking.
yeah, yeah. The waiting period is that's a good point too. Just like you're saying, there's again, if you think about like what are the factors that drive odds to go up? Um, your biggest thing is the number of applicants in the pool. And so obviously, you've got applicants and available tags. If your tags go down, your odds go up. If your applicants, uh, sorry, your if the tags go down, your odds go down. If your applicants go up, your odds go down. So like, if you can pull applicants out of the pool with the waiting period, then we're going to
Right.
improve the odds. Um, Seems to be hard to just increase the number of tags. So that takes years as opposed to something like just being able to say, hey, you had your shot, you get pulled out of the pool for a while, and then you can come back in.
Yeah.
So
Well, more tags is always the right answer. Easier said than
yeah,
done. Um, Everyone wants better habitat, more animals, more tags, more opportunity. So ultimately, that's the goal. The last 10 years, the odds to draw some of these tags have just really, really demand's gone way high. So
yeah,
I would just like to explore more methods about getting some of that, opportunity back in whatever kind of even radical ways possible.
yep, yep.
Like you said, it's probably too complicated to be realistic, but still fun to talk about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh, okay, here's a fun one for you. What do you every once in a while you see people who kind of rail about sites like Top Rut or Go Hunt or Hunt Score, like this information it's ruining hunting, or it's like it's ruined my unit.
Right.
Thoughts on that?
Well, I think there's some truth to it a little bit,
Yeah,
but look, the days of secrets is long gone. It's over. Like there's no real secrets anymore.
yeah,
Some of
yeah,
these convenience services, even like what we did with draw odds, um, is just a time saver, a helper. Gives you more information to make decisions. Uh,
yep,
but let's be honest, people don't read very much. If they have to do deep research, there's a big pool of people that aren't going to do that. I think the real bigger kind of influence on the increase in demand has just been, social media, uh,
yep,
all the things that are being consumed out there. If you get someone like Joe Rogan, who's like his huge audience, kind of advocating for public land and public land hunting, like the impact of something like that is, I don't even know how much bigger that is than Top Cut and some nerd math statistics. You know,
yeah. Well, I
there's
can
levels to this thing, and social media and some of the, some of those promotions have been the biggest factor in kind of increasing demand.
Yeah, I think so too. You know, I like you said, there's levels. So I think if you looked at like our websites, um, probably, did we, again, it's like a function, right? All right. We're talking about the applicant pool, and then you've also got the odds. All
Mhm.
right. So like probably odds could have changed some by our sites, right? Because there's the applicant pool who's already interested in hunting, and now they've got better access to better data, and so they can kind of
Right.
choose how to, like you're saying, they can basically go, okay, great, now I've got a historical view of the odds. I've got a better understanding of what my true odds are. Now, based on whether I care about opportunity or I care about like trying to go to a particular unit, whatever it might be, the closest place to me that's going to give me the best harvest success. Like now I can choose better. And so those odds change a little bit because we've got people who can do that.
Right.
Um, you know, on like when it comes to draws, non-residents, for the most part, I don't think we probably changed too much because they are what they like. More non-residents don't get to go because the quota is already set. The quota is what the quotas are, right? And so
Right.
like you can't get more people in. When it
Right.
comes over the counter stuff, okay, if over the counter is not limited, then yeah, if people are finding out about it and they had no idea like where to go before and now, they run across our sites, and yeah, you could drive some more demand there. Um, but I don't know what it was like for Top Rut. For a hunt score, most of our demand, like if I look at where people were, what state they were in, and what state they're searching on the site, it wasn't for me, it wasn't non-resident demand. It was resident demand. Like residents were most interested. They're the ones using the site the most. Like, where in my state am I looking to hunt?
Yeah. No, I think we saw that as well.
Yeah,
I think the pool of people that really care about the research, kind of nerdy math side of probabilities and these draw odds, I
yeah,
think in general is probably pretty small.
it,
But
it is.
I think, as compared to the number, if the overall number is 2 million, there's a single digit percentage that are really, really care about the numbers the way that we do.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. But like you're saying, I mean, the sort of traffic that we had compared to what one Rogan episode can do, it's like he's gonna crush it. In one episode, he's gonna crush what we're gonna do in a whole year. So
right, right.
it's just yeah, yeah. So
I mean,
it,
I drew my first Western tag, I think in 2007. Started really applying more broadly around 2012, probably.
mhm,
I definitely missed kind of the quote unquote old days, if you will, as far as
yeah,
opportunities to draw tags. I mean, it's gotten the last 10 years, things have really, really changed. And, I hate that, but I think it's just a product of, the internet, better tools, better mapping tools. People can go out,
yeah.
they're not going to freaking get lost. I mean,
Oh
there's
yeah,
factors that kind of came together to produce this demand. And the biggest one is just they're great experiences. Like to go
it's amazing.
enjoy the West and public lands, these kind of awesome landscapes. It's just like
Yeah,
what's not to like. So
yeah, yeah. No, I'm with you. Yeah, I think I'm like I'm pretty responsive to the idea that a lot of kind of digital technology is, um, had some negative impacts on the old ways, right? The way it used to be. Like even if I look at where I grew up in Minnesota in the spots that I hunted, I think it was 2 years ago when I was home, I went up grouse hunting in the winter, and I was bouncing around these. I used to always hunt these bogs, and there's like little islands on these bogs, and I like I can guarantee you nobody but me and one buddy ever hunted those when I was growing up, and nobody I think even really knew about them. We had a plat map, we saw some
Right.
county-owned land, and like we were hitting it hard, and every single one of those islands had a deer stand on it. I was like, you gotta be shitting me. People
Really?
are out here now. And a lot has changed, right? Like the area I grew up in, it was not really a destination area for anything. Like we had a lot of lakes and stuff and people went fishing, but uh for the most part, it wasn't like a hot area. But then in the last 10 years, mountain biking became a really big thing. And a lot of people from the Minneapolis, St. Paul area have cabins and they go up there and they recreate. And, I think with mapping tools, people are like, oh, well, I can fish, I can bike, where can I hunt? And, you know, they find the spots. So,
Right.
um, yeah, yeah. It's yeah, the cat's kind of out of the bag though. So
Yeah, I have
at
been.
this point.
Yeah. No, you just have to make the best of, what's happening.
Yep.
Keep up to date. Things change year to year. As you go into each draw season, try to make sure you understand, what changes have occurred, if any, what's on the horizon. Just paying basic attention to kind of what's going on out there can be a big help, I think, just long term.
Yeah. Yeah. What so is that like as people are thinking about going about I mean, we're through most of the draws this year. You either drew or you didn't. If you didn't draw, still over the counter opportunities if you want to go west, or obviously all over the east, there's a lot of over the counter opportunities to hunt. But you know, any recommendations for people who are thinking about next year and how they should approach their application season? We talked a little bit earlier about kind of the long-term view, but you
Right.
know, tips or tricks just for this next year. If somebody's like, I want to go hunting this year, what are some things that I should be looking for as I apply?
Nothing too big, but like I said, pay attention to the pre-draw quotas. If states come out with
Hmm.
quotas before the draw deadline, like sometimes there are changes in there that are significant that you might catch or see that other people just weren't aware of. Maybe there's an increase in tag numbers or even a decrease in tag numbers that might
Yeah,
sway your decision. So sometimes those can be really kind of critical to figure out, what path to take. And I think just again on a long-term vision thing, and I don't think we've talked about this, but if you're choosing between a 2% draw odds hunt or a 5% draw odds hunt, the
yeah,
difference, a lot of people feel like there's no difference. And in one way, they're right in that, yes, you're unlikely to draw that.
and yeah, right.
that. That's true.
They're both low,
Yes.
but
But, 2% is 1 in 50, whereas 5% is 1 in 20. Now, there's a big difference
Mhm.
if you're trying to draw the single red ball out of a bag between 50 and 20. And I
Yeah,
think people should realize that as they think long term. So when it comes to choosing between hunt A and hunt B, there really is a difference. Every percent
yeah,
matters, especially as you get down into the single digits. Um,
yeah,
so that's one piece of advice I would give. If you take that approach kind of over 20 years, if you're applying for multiple states, multiple species, at some point that probably is going to pay off for you with an additional tag or two. So
yeah, yeah. That's
sometimes that make all the difference in the world, you know, when you look back and think, well, have I been lucky or have I been unlucky?
yeah, yeah. And it might just be that your strategy has been poor, as
Right.
opposed. Yeah, I mean, there's still, it is it is random to an extent, right? And
Yeah.
so uh, you could be applying to, states, 10 states, all hunts that have 5% odds for 10 years and not draw anything. It is possible.
Yep.
It's just really unlikely if you take this type of strategy. Most likely you're going to have, probably 5 tags or more in that time period. So
Right.
you could have great hunts, uh, even with, great hunts multiple years, even with low odds, if you've got multiple that you're applying to. So that's super insightful. And yeah, I think a lot of people do. They just think, well, it's such a bad odds that it doesn't matter. But like you said, it does actually matter.
Yeah.
Those,
In the long view, it does.
yeah.
There's a real like advantage to like looking at it that way, I think.
Mm-hmm.
The other
Mm-hmm.
thing I do personally is like I think of them as project hunts, project units, units
Yeah.
that are easier to draw. Generally, maybe they're challenging units to hunt just for whatever reason. But
Yeah.
I've got a couple of those where I think of them as projects where I hunt them multiple years just because there are opportunities there, and they are challenging. They're hard hunts, difficult to be successful in. But every year you go back, you kind of learn something new. And after 2 or 3 years, I find myself like kind of looking forward to going back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because in almost all of those units and those hunts, there are areas, 1 or 2 areas, or maybe several, where you could have an excellent, excellent hunt. Just the right encounter, the right day,
Yep.
right set of animals, and you've had a really, really great experience. So that's another one, just to invest year over year and like finding opportunity hunts that you can kind of get to really know a unit.
Yeah. Yeah. And so those are ones that have, um, I guess it sounds like kind of, you know, mid-tier, I'll say draw, mid to low, or maybe mid to high, I guess it would be. Like you're not going to draw it every year, but maybe every couple years type
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
And then, do you look for them that like border, you know, other quality, like kind of high tier units where it's going to be, oh, this is a 10, once every 10 years, you might be able to hunt that unit, but this bordering one, or does that not really play into it?
I think maybe look at that a little bit. I think
Yeah.
the private land part of it is kind of a big deal. Can you identify areas, on the map where you might be able to, get back in somewhere kind of tucked away on some public land that's probably surrounded by some really, really good private habitat.
Yep.
Even some of those tough units, like, well, the animals that are here are probably right here
Yeah.
concentrated on private, but
Yeah.
you're right there in the area and you never know
Yeah.
what can happen.
You look
Uh,
for that center pivot on the
right.
map.
Exactly.
So, um, yeah,
There's just things
yeah,
like that. I mean, especially, as tags have gotten really, really hard to kind of come by.
yeah,
Just
yep.
any little thing you can find to kind of accomplish whatever it is you're looking for.
Okay. That's cool. That's a good one to look for. How about hunts? Hunts you got this year? Any hunts you're excited for? Or ones that you've done in the past that you're like, oh man, it's a great hunt.
Well, I've drawn a couple of good New Mexico elk, archery elk tags. That's kind of my thing. Archery elk's what I love to do. So
Hmm.
it's been a while. 2013 and 2016, I drew good tags there. I had good success. Haven't drawn in New Mexico since 21, I think. But one of
Okay.
my project units I was talking about is New
Yeah.
Mexico, northern New Mexico elk unit, um, that I try to get back to, but I haven't drawn that one since 2021. But this year I've got Utah archery elk permit that I'm excited about. So that's the big one. And then of course you and we drew the Colorado tag. So
Yeah. Yeah. We'll go
it's going to be a
go.
fun too, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. My only other experience in Colorado is doing over the counter archery elk. That was several years ago. And it was just packed with folks. So
Right.
uh, uh, by the road, I did the several miles back in wilderness, and I didn't see anyone back there. Also didn't see, I think I saw one cow elk in 5 days. So
Right.
was, a learning experience on that particular hunt. But yeah, I think this one's going to be a pretty fun one. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. How do you typically go about your traveling to units?
Well, I try. I I'll try to just power through and do them straight drive straight through. Coming from the Midwest, most places I go are within, I would say, 16 hours, which I think is kind of my 1 day limit.
Yeah, yeah,
But if it's further than that, I'll usually break it into two. Like last year, I had an Arizona tag, and it was I broke that drive into 2 days. But yeah, I just if I am going to pull over, I usually am like a throw up a tent somewhere, anywhere I can on the side of the road, public land spot, or just
yeah.
whatever. Grab a few hours of sleep and then go on.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I do generally the same thing, although I do sleep quite often in my truck, which um I don't recommend. It leads to lots of aches and pains.
Right.
But if it's late and I'm anything that's easy to toss a tent up on, I'll pull over at a rest stop and crash. So
Yeah.
I
Those
haven't
fo-
had any creepers yet, come up to the truck. So
those folks driving from the East Coast, I don't know how they do it sometimes. That is New York, Pennsylvania, the Carolinas, like wow, that is a long
yeah,
to drive.
yeah, that's
Can't do
a
those folks at all.
that's got to be a killer to do that. Props to those Pennsylvania plates that I see every year in some of those states. So
Yeah.
um, right on. Well, yeah, thanks for coming on. I feel like we covered it good on some of the draw topics. So we'll have to I'll have to get you back on here for a mapping one, since I know you're a mapping nerd like me, and been doing some LiDAR stuff. So we'll have to talk about that and some other stuff, other
Yeah, no,
topics.
it's been great to be on. Yeah, mapping, kind of playing with some new map stuff has kind of been my side project as of late. So that'll be a good topic.
Yeah, yeah. Um, right on. Well, yeah, glad you came on. I'm happy I've been able to get to know you. It's been a couple years. I remember seeing your email come through one day on Hunt Scores, like Hunt Score in Kansas City, and lo and behold, here we are, 20 miles apart from each other. To two of a handful of companies in the whole US that were focused on draw odds. So who'd have
Yeah,
thought?
yeah, small world. It's crazy how that happens sometimes. Like,
Yep.
what are the odds?
Um,
We're right here, same neighborhood basically.
yeah, yeah. Um, all right, man. Well, thanks for coming on, and thanks everyone for listening. Hopefully this is helpful in creating a draw strategy for not just next year, but the future too. So, all right, we'll catch you on the next episode.
Thank you.